Hello everyone, welcome to this week's lecture. We are going to go over the announcement that came out on February 2nd. We're going to talk about your document essay. We're going to talk about your general education learning outcome assignment that is going to be due. We're going to talk about peer review expectations, and then we're going to talk about how to conduct a peer review. So this announcement came out at the beginning of Module 4, and I wanted to go over it to make sure that everyone had a clear understanding of the expectations. And as you can see, the first thing listed is that you must provide a source as evidence for all of your assignments now. You should be using the library to find information to incorporate into your journals. This is specifically important in regards to your stance. You want to have a very clear stance and then be able to back that stance up with outside information. We went over credible sources already. If you have not watched that lecture, I really urge you to go do so. For week 4, I had stated that not to worry too much about the credibility. I just wanted to start seeing that source integration. However, for week 6 and 7, you need to have credible sources. In your journals, the expectation is now to have source integration, proper quote integration, in-text citations, and bibliographic citations in a works cited page. I want to reiterate that AI is not allowed in any capacity in this class. That includes using Grammarly and using citation generators or using AI to write your work. As stated in the course policies, there is an AI detection that you guys do not have access to, but professors do. When that system detects AI, I will be asking you guys to provide a version history of your work. Now, a version history will show the progression of your writing, and that's what I'm looking for. So I need to be able to see how you built the paper and the edits you made and how many edits you made and how long it took to write the paper. If you provide your version history to me and I see that you did write it and there is progression of the paper, you will receive your grade. However, if I cannot see the progression and you are flagged by the AI, you will receive a 0. If you get a message on Canvas from me requesting to see your version history within a certain time frame, please respond to it and get that to me quickly, because if you do not answer by the allotted time, then I have to go with what the detection has stated. Again, this started in week 4, but for journals 4 and 5, you guys will be receiving deductions for not following MLA formatting. I need to see your last name and page number. I need to see the header. I need to see a title. I need to see a works cited page with the proper citations, everything that goes along with MLA formatting. I'm not going to deduct 10 points if you did the date wrong. That would not be fair to you. But that annotated feedback is very important for going in and seeing what you may need to improve on for your MLA formatting. As we get to the later assignments, specifically your document essay, which we are going to talk about in a moment, MLA formatting is very important for your document essay, and I will be expecting to see clear and correct formatting for your papers. Please conduct your writing in either Word or Google Docs. Anything else is not going to have a version history, which ties into the AI. If I need to see your paper progression, I will not be able to see it if you use any other system. For your final exam, you must download the Microsoft Word app to your computer. That does not mean you go under your MyPSC apps and you open it underneath a web browser as you would Google Docs. The biggest difference is when you are using Google Docs or you are using Word through the internet and you go to save your file, you're not actually saving a file, you are downloading a file. And that is why so many people were getting kicked out of their exams on their timed essay, and I opened it back up so everyone could go back in. Downloads are not allowed. However, if you have a Microsoft Word file and you simply save your file, you're not downloading a file from the internet, you are saving a file on your own device. And it was noticed that if you use the Microsoft Word app, most of the time people were not running into any issues in terms of submitting their work. So for your final exam, which is another timed essay, you are going to want to make sure you have the Microsoft Word app downloaded on your computer and be able to pull up regular Microsoft Word and be able to write your essay in it and then save that and then be able to submit that for your final. We aren't going to talk about your final too much now, but I will revisit this again when it is time to talk about your final timed exam. This is a reminder that all of your sources should be open access and they should not be behind a paywall. Remember, your strongest sources are going to be peer-reviewed and they are going to be open access. If your source is behind a paywall, it is not verifiable and it is not acceptable for this class because I need to be able to see the information that you are using from the source in your writing. If your sources are not verifiable, that can result in plagiarism and you can get a 0. So pay close attention to your sources and how you are citing them, and that your sources that you are using for your writing are accurate and they are accessible. I also wanted to remind everyone that any information that is not your own thoughts needs a citation. It does not matter if you are using a quote from someone's work or if you are summarizing their ideas. Any idea that is not your own needs to have an in-text citation and a bibliographic citation. If your source does not have a page number, you can use a paragraph number in its place. However, if you have a very long article and you're like, this is paragraph like 17, reach out to me and show me the source and say, hey, this is the source I'm using this information. And I can then just make sure that it is accurate ahead of time. If you have a very long source, reach out ahead of time. However, if you are using a regular source that has 10 paragraphs in it, you do want to replace the page number with the paragraph number so that your information is easily accessible. And the last announcement was about quote integration for your quote integration quiz. If you are using a sentence at the beginning of a paragraph and you need one a little bit lower or at the end, and you don't want to have to use the entire paragraph, you can use ellipsis to get you from one point to the next. So it makes sure the ideas are near each other within the same paragraph. Don't use an ellipsis if you have one idea at the top of a page and then one 3-page later. But if your ideas are close together and you just need to omit some of the information in the middle because it does not support your point or it is not relevant to what you are talking about, you can use an ellipsis to connect. Your document essay is worth 15% of your final grade, so you want to ensure you are following the instructions very closely. Your document essay is going to be an expository essay. You are going to be informing your reader, who is going to be you as you are now or a younger version of yourself, how to be successful in your chosen career field. Now, this is not going to be an opinion piece. You guys have been sharing opinions, even in with summary and response. You were responding by telling me your analysis and thoughts. Your beginning papers were telling me your story. This paper is informing. You are not going to be writing, I think you can be successful in my chosen career by studying hard. You have to be able to say, this career needs to be studied rigorously as proven by this source. You are not going to be giving your opinion on how to succeed in the field. You are going to be using facts, statistics, and research to show how to be successful in the career. The word count for your document essay is 1,000 to 1,500 words. It is a longer essay than what you guys have been writing previously. To reach that word count, you guys are going to be completing 2 things. You are going to be answering all of the questions, which I have attached an image of here, and doing research and using research within your own work through proper quote integration to support your writing and reach your word count. The questions are stated at the bottom of the screen. You are going to be using these questions to inform your reader how to be successful. These questions are a guiding point. You should have 1 paragraph for each bullet. So you should have 4 body paragraphs as a minimum. Again, you want to make sure that you are not just stating your opinion for this. You are going to exploring how to be successful, but that is not all opinion-based. You need research to back it up, which brings us to trustworthy sources. For sources, you need at least 1 source from the PSC library. That can be any of the online databases within the PSC library, but you need at least 1 source from the library. Additionally, you need to make sure all your sources are trustworthy. So even if you are not using the library, you need to ensure that they meet the credible standards that we have set in the class. Sources that are not trustworthy, such as Wikipedia and Britannica, are not allowed for the document essay. Remember the 4 minimum things every citation needs. You need an author, a title, a publisher, and a working URL. And I said minimum. If there is any additional information, such as the volume, edition, or editors, those need to be integrated into your bibliographic citations. When in doubt, especially for a project worth 15% of your grade, send your sources in early. Email them to me. Send me your bibliographic citations. Ask me if they look correct. I am more than happy to look over anything you guys want me to look over prior to this. If you have issues with a small section where you feel like this isn't working right and my writing is not conveying what I want it to, bring it to me. I am happy to set up office hours. I am happy to look over any of your writing. I'm happy to send you annotated feedback if that's what works best for your schedule. But if you guys have questions regarding how to do proper citations or if a source is trustworthy, you need to get that figured out before the document essay. If you are going to reach out, plan to do so early. Try to avoid reaching out the day the paper is due, as it makes response time and the ability to give you guys proper feedback very challenging. So as we were talking about trustworthy sources, let's move straight into citations. Like I said, I am happy to look over your citations for you prior to you submitting the paper. If you are summarizing, you need in-text citations. If you are using a quote, you need context, proper quote integration, and an in-text citation. Ensure you are using signal phrases, quotation marks, and in-text citations. I would rather see you oversight than undercite. Now, that does not mean your entire paper should just be citations, because I want to see your own ideas as well. But if you are feeling uncertain of whether you should cite something or not, it is normally best to go with citing it. As a whole, make sure you go through and edit. We went over editing strategies last week. Pay attention to formatting. Pay attention to sentence structure. Pay attention to clarity. You want to make sure you're using a formal academic tone. There should be no slang. Your writing should be approachable, but you should be selective with your word choice. Look at grammar. Look at punctuation. Look at the design and the formatting of the entire document, and make sure that everything is coherent and cohesive. Now we are going to go over your general education learning outcome form that you have to fill out for your document essay. This is what it looks like blank. It is provided in the module. You are going to fill this out and you are going to submit it. So you're going to identify the broad topic of your essay. Now remember, your topic is going to be your chosen career field. So you want to have a broad topic about your chosen career field and about teaching yourself about the chosen career field. And then you're going to identify the narrowed positions of your essay. For the narrowed positions of your essay, you really want to start thinking about your points. You want to start thinking about the stance you are taking and what information you are trying to convey. And then you are going to identify your thesis statement. I want to see clear, strong thesis statements that cover your stance, your position, and a general overview of your points. And then you are going to be demonstrating the ability to use material. The reason that we are doing this early is so that I can see where you're at and provide feedback before the document essay. But this will show me how you are going in terms of building up to your document essay. For section 3, it states you are going to provide 2 supporting points along with the sources you will use to develop the points, and explain how you will use the sources to develop each point. This means that you are going to be saying, this is the point I will be exploring within my paper, and then you are going to show the source that you are using. You are going to explain why that source connects back to your writing and how it will support it. Next, I'm going to show you guys 2 examples of what this form looks like completed. So this is example 1, and as you can see, it's filled out. The broad topic is going to be students' mental health. The narrowed position of the essay is apply operative, flexible, in-school mental health resources for students. And then you are going to see the specific thesis statement written below that says, the Santa Rosa County School Board should provide dependable, obtainable mental health care for students. That is the stance and the claim and what the paper will be exploring, clearly stated in 1 sentence. And you can see the points as well, which is to maintain school safety parameters, student scores, and a positive educational atmosphere. And those are going to be the points that are going to be explored. Again, this is going to be very in-depth and specific to your paper depending on what you choose. This is still the first example, but this is the 3rd section that you need to fill out. As you can see, there's the stance. Adaptable, accessible mental health reserves in school can guarantee students a timely, effective trauma response. And then it has the title of the article, what is crisis intervention. And then it explains about the article, what is used from the article, and how the article supports the point. It is specific. Then there is a second example as well. I will add the examples to the module so that you can look over the examples prior to filling out your own form. Here's the second example of the Global Learning Outcomes form, or the General Learning Outcome form, that you will be completing. Again, we can see the topic of the essay is identified. It is artificial intelligence in the workplace. I know that these topics do not align with your project, but these are meant to be examples of what the form looks like completed and the expectations of the form, and you must apply our instructions for the document essay to this form. So again, the topic is artificial intelligence in the workplace. After we see the topic of the essay, we can then see the narrowed position of the essay. And again, the position is going to be the stance you are taking. So for your document essay, your stance that you are taking in regards to that career field is very clear. And then we can see the thesis statement at the bottom. The example thesis statement reads, by taking over certain jobs, AI can alleviate the dangers and stress associated with them, increase productivity of workers, and become more cost-effective over time. Not to mention that it also provides vital militaristic advantages that could be required in future wars. That is a clear thesis statement that is one sentence, has the points, has the stance, and has the topic all in one line. And again, these examples will be available to you in the module. This is the second half of example 2. I am not going to read the entire thing for you guys. It will be in the module for you to go read and look at and use as a base. But as we can see here, there is the point for the paper, and then there is the citation. There is the source that you will be using. It is accessible. It is easy to be found. There is a URL. It has all the necessary requirements of what we need within our citations. And then it has an overview of what the source is and how you will use that source in your own writing. And as you can see, this example has 2 sources. You want to make sure you provide enough information within this information literacy area to be able to identify the source. If you want to just use the title and the heading, as the last source did, you need to make sure you state the publisher, the author, and provide the URL somewhere in the body paragraph of what you are writing. Now let's talk about peer reviews. Peer reviews are an exchange of work between people in a class or a workshop to provide suggestions, critiques, and commentary on the other's work. This is done throughout creative and non-creative writing. You will be sharing the rough draft of your document essay in this module. Whatever you have completed needs to be submitted by Friday, February 20th, so your peers have at least 2 days to give you a proper peer review and submit it. This is a great way to not only give feedback, but learn how to give feedback, which is a very important exchange of information throughout education. So the expectation is that your peer review will be an exchange of ideas. You will need to answer the questions that are listed in our assignment for the peer review and any additional questions that your peer has. But the idea is that you guys are going to be exchanging ideas much like you would in a classroom. You are trying to help your classmates succeed and they are trying to help you succeed. As the reviewer, your job is to answer all of the questions and be mindful in your response to your peer. As the person being reviewed, it is important to be objective when you are reading your feedback. It is important that you do not get defensive and that you listen and appreciate the fact that there's an outside perspective taking a look at your work. If there are parts of the peer review that you do not understand or you need clarification on, you need to reach out. If there is questions you have to your peer about their work and say you are slightly confused, instead of just being like, I don't understand this, ask them questions, start a discussion. This is a way for you guys to help each other and for me to see what feedback you guys are looking for and to help you before the document essay is due. If you do not understand the questions you are answering, if you do not understand something within your peers' writing, ask questions. Do not just say, I don't understand, I don't want to share, I don't know. Don't throw your hands up. Engage. This is a great way to share ideas and to learn from each other and to learn how to not only provide constructive feedback, but to receive constructive feedback, which is how everyone improves. I've done many peer reviews throughout my academic career. I've received good feedback, I've received bad feedback, but I have learned how to share feedback with others through peer reviews. Additionally, I have learned how to look at my work through someone else's eyes, and I've learned how to not be defensive and to listen to what my peer is saying. The reason I was able to do this was through a term I coined as critical kindness. It is the way I approach peer reviews, and it is the way I approach feedback that is given to me and have ever since I started my educational career. Critical kindness is knowing how to critique a partner, a peer, a coworker's work with kindness, while also pointing out any errors in grammar or areas that need improvement within their work. The aim is always to be respectful and considerate. So remember, the goal for a peer review is to have an honest conversation about the work. The conversation can revolve around an essay, it can revolve around an outline, it can revolve around a creative writing, but it is about sharing your work and getting feedback for it that aligns with the goal of the project, paper, assignment that you are working with. It is staying within the parameters of the assignment and providing feedback in a kind manner. One of the most important aspects of being critically kind is to point out good and bad. So you are going to highlight strengths that you see within another's writing, but you are also going to point out areas for improvement. It is all about how you phrase your communication. So the most important element of critical kindness is clear communication, because you can be as kind as you want, but if you are also incredibly rude when pointing out something that needs improvement, it is most likely when you are rude in your feedback that someone will get defensive and not take what you are trying to share to heart. So critical kindness depends on clear communication of not only the positive elements within a work, but the areas that need improvement. And that's how it should be phrased. You do not want to say, I didn't like this, and provide no explanation. You don't want to say stuff along the lines of, this wasn't clear, I didn't like this, doesn't make any sense, and move on. Critical kindness comes with providing context and being kind when you are providing an area for improvement. It looks something along the lines of, while this was a strong idea, I think the way you phrased it needs to be restructured. That is a way to provide kindness and provide criticism and say, the way this idea is communicated may not be entirely clear, but it is a good idea. Now, I'm not saying you want to sugarcoat it. I'm not saying you want to say, oh, there's absolutely nothing wrong in this paper. The goal is for you guys to help each other grow. And to do that, you need to learn how to take feedback from someone else on areas that need improvement within your own work. However, that does not mean that feedback should have no context and that feedback should be rude. You cannot simply say, I didn't like this, or this makes no sense. You need to provide suggestions. You need to think about the word choice you are using. You need to be able to defend your stance, essentially. Additionally, you are not going off what you did or did not like in someone else's writing. Everyone has different writing styles, and everyone may have different opinions as well. You are focusing on giving feedback based off of the parameters of the peer review. So it is not your personal opinion. It is looking at someone else's work objectively and giving them feedback on the writing based off of the project criteria. To best help your peers, you need to remain objective. To best receive feedback, you also need to remain objective. You need to see what your peers are saying without emotion attached to it, without thinking they hate my writing and they think it's awful and I'm never going to get good. If you talk to yourself like that, it is going to hold you back. The goal of peer reviews is honest interaction of exchanging feedback and helping each other improve while also being kind. It is practicing learning how to structure what you are saying in a way that is not crass or rude. So here are some general do's and don'ts when it comes to peer reviews. You want to tell your peers what works. You want to tell them what was clearly articulated and what they argued well, and the specific details that stood out, and the sentences that were impactful, and if their topic sentences were good. Is your thesis good? You want to give your peer feedback to tell them what their strengths are. You also want to make sure you know the subject matter you are going to be touching on and discussing. This means you need to read through the instructions for the document essay carefully and know what you are talking about. You also need to read through your peers' work and the instructions for the peer review carefully. You need to make sure that you have knowledge on the subject matter. That does not mean you need to understand the career they are talking about. That means you need to understand what the goals of the paper are and what the expectations of the peer review and the assignment are. You want to offer your peer suggestions on improvement. Your peer does not have to take your feedback and you do not have to take your peer's feedback, but it is there for you to get an objective look at your own writing. As a reviewer, you offer suggestions, and as the person receiving the review, you look over the suggestions with a clear head and you decide if you want to apply it or not. Just because your peer offers a suggestion does not mean you have to use it within your writing. And then again, ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand your peer's writing as a reviewer, you may ask them questions to get more clarity. If you, as the person receiving the review, don't understand your peer's feedback, ask them clarifying questions. Go in and say, I saw your suggestion. What do you think of this? Or, I saw your suggestion. Can you explain more what you mean by restructure? Could you explain how I can better integrate this research? Get their opinion, exchange ideas. That is the whole point, is to have an open discussion and ask questions. Don't use language such as, I don't like this, I didn't like this, and this didn't work. As the reviewer, your goal is not to make your peers' writing what you like. It is to make it fit the criteria of our essay. You are there to help each other reach the criteria of the document essay. As a general rule, you're going to avoid the word this. Now, I tell you guys to avoid the word this within your writing anyways, as it is not very specific. But in peer reviews, that rule also applies. Don't say, I didn't like this. You need to be specific. I think that sentence 4 could be restructured. Again, it's that combination of clear, accurate, and kind that makes peer reviews so effective in receiving feedback. Don't be rude. If you are being rude in your peer response, if you are giving your peers very limited feedback, if you are being short, abrupt, rude, or unclear, you will have points deducted for the peer. And again, don't tell your peer what they'd have to do in their writing. As a reviewer, you offer suggestions, and as the person being reviewed, you look over the suggestions and decide if you want to use them or if you do not. The process of peer reviewing is a series of steps, some of which you do not have a choice in, and some of which you do. And I'm going to share with you what I do, and I urge you to figure out your own peer review process, as it'll help you as you continue your academic journey. So the first step of any peer review is to read the instructions and the questions posed carefully. This means you need to go through the document essay instructions. You need to look over the discussion board for the peer review and read those instructions carefully. You need to make sure you understand what the expectations are and what you are looking at in your peer's work. Specifically, there's that document essay instructions. If you do not know the criteria for the document essay instructions, you cannot provide feedback to your peer. You need to make sure you know what the expectations are for the essay, which we have already discussed earlier, and then you are going to look at how your peer follows or needs to improve to meet those criteria. Step 2 will be a close read of your peer's work from start to finish. A complete close read is necessary to be able to provide feedback. If you do not do a close read of your peer's feedback, you will lack familiarity with their points and their arguments, and you won't be able to provide precise feedback. This is the 3 steps that you must do. And before I go to step 3, I'm going to add in an additional little step 2 part B, because this is what I had done when I was conducting peer reviews and what I still do when I need to peer review someone's work. If I'm peer reviewing someone's work, I make sure that I do a close read through and I don't touch the document. And then I use the track changes feature on Word to offer suggestions. I leave comments. I edit quick grammatical errors and I say, hey, this, you're missing a period here or you're missing a quote, and I just add it in using track changes. I make sure the tracked changes are on, because then when I give the document to my peer, they can then choose to accept or reject those changes. But it is a way for you to point out without having to say, hey, in paragraph 2, sentence 4, you forgot a period. Then you can just input it, they can see the change, and they can decide to accept it or reject it within their document. I would always go through and make comments on areas that I felt like needed improvement or areas that were very well done, and I would use track changes to help with grammar and polish. Now, this is not a step I am expecting you guys to do. However, knowing that track changes is there as a feature to not only use for your own edits within your own writing, but also as a way to provide feedback is a good tidbit to know. As I said, you don't have to do step B, but that is personally what I did. I would always annotate before I wrote out the feedback and answered whatever questions was there. One, it provides a little more depth to your peer and they get a little more extra feedback that is a little bit more precise, but it also helps you as the reviewer learn how to read and analyze documents better and how to use the systems to provide good feedback. Now, step 3 is answering all the questions with depth. Now, as I said, I like to annotate first before I answer questions. You guys are not expected to do that. However, you are expected to answer every single question in the discussion board prompt along with any questions your peer poses with depth. And what I mean by that, it is not a quick sentence. It is not everything looks good. It is not wouldn't move the point anywhere. It is depth. You are analyzing each other's work, trying to help each other succeed. I don't want to see one sentence answers. I want to see you guys engaging with each other's material. You want to be exact in areas of success and areas of improvement. So that means that you are not just saying, I loved this sentence. You are saying this was a clear sentence that showed your point. This is a strong sentence that defended your argument. You are being specific on what is good and what could use improvement within your peers' writing. And again, for needs improvement, you are offering suggestions. Consider adding more research into your second point to make it stronger. Consider making your topic sentence clearer so the reader knows what you are going to be talking about. That is offering suggestions. You are looking at the writing itself. Your personal opinion on your peer's chosen career is not the focus. It is not about making the essay something that you, as the reviewer, will like. It is about making it meet the criteria for the document essay. Read through the instructions carefully. Read through your peer's work very carefully. Do a second read if you need to, but make sure you do at least one full read from start to finish, and then answer all of the questions with depth. Those are going to be the expectations for this peer review. It is not going to be a quick, hey, I liked your idea here. You are going to be saying you have a strong topic sentence, argument, textual evidence that shows the reader XYZ. You are going to be specific. I know this was a lot of information going all the way from the announcement to the general education learning outcome form that you guys need to fill out for your document essay, to understanding you will be peer reviewing each other's rough drafts for this document essay. But all of this is leading up to your document essay. All of this is to ensure you succeed in the class. To look over your MLA formatting, your quote integration, your in-text citations, your bibliographic citations, and if your source is trustworthy. I am also happy to look over any small areas that you are worried about within your own writing prior to you submitting the document essay. The document essay is 15% of your grade. I want you guys to succeed. If you have any questions or want feedback on anything prior, I am here and I am more than happy to look it over. So please use the resources you have. If you don't want to come to me, use the writing lab. Set up a tutoring session if you are struggling or feeling confused on any of the assignment material. I know you guys got this. I am excited to see what you write. And again, this week, we're just preparing for that document essay, and I know you guys got it.